In the 2.2 update, a number of troll units had their leadership significantly increased. Greenskins, having some of the best trolls in the game, were definitely a huge beneficiary of that. Stone trolls, of course, I think we're part of that, I believe. Stone trolls are one of the best trolls in the game, in my opinion. Magic, missile resistance, now spell resistance. Not as useful as it was before, but still quite strong. Then, of course, they've got the Regiment of Renowned Swamp Things, who do cause terror, and with their increased leadership, they should do quite well. It should also be worth, it is worth noting here, rather, that these Stone Trolls also have rank 9 to increase their leadership for the rest of the build. Here we've got Wurzag, Black Orc, Boss, some Savage Orc, Biggins, some Goblins, got Squig Herds, a Doomdiver Catapult. Nice defensive position here for the Greenskins. Wurzag, of course, dancing on foot. For the Beastmen, their opponents, got some Warhounds here, plenty of Centaurs with throwing axes, Malagor leading the way, a couple of Minotaurs, some Ungor Spearman Herd, Boar Herds, and Ungor Raiders as well. Let's see how it goes. I have been seeing, actually, in quite a few matches, Norska, Warriors of Chaos, and Greenskins all taking Trolls pretty frequently, which is great to see. I mean, Trolls are one of those units that's never really been meta, due to their terrible leadership and the fact they're easily terror routed. But of course here, one of these trolls causes terror. The other one can benefit from Bob's AoE immune to psychology to prevent it from getting terror routed. Not that this Beastman build actually has any terror anyway, besides the Cygor, of course, which will be throwing rocks at long range. But yeah, it's going to have to move into melee to really make use of that terror, which of course probably will in the late game, but that missile damage will be reduced, of course, by the Stone Troll's missile resistance. As the Squig Herds and the Gobos clash in the front line here, got the Blackhorns, Ravagers, and these Gore Herds and Ungors rushing into a bloody, brutal combat. And yeah, the Squig Herds mass, you can see them kind of sending a lot of the Gore Herds and such flying. It will be a little bit tough for the Beastmen to output damage because of that, but not so much for the Minotaurs. They come in here, start busting up this blob in a big hurry. All the hounds lurking in the background as the Swamp Things try to avoid taking too much damage from the Centaurs. They don't have the missile resistance of Stone Trolls. They're River Trolls, of course, which means they have poison and this melee attack debuff, so they're going to be arguably better in melee in many ways, but definitely less resistance to those missiles. And tactically, it's very important for the Greenskins to keep the Swamp Things alive so they can provide terror. Nice huge Foot of Gork there. Detonates a number of Beastman support units. Also does some good damage to those Minotaurs as the Stone Trolls themselves charge in. Got a little Wah buff there, and we're able to output a lot of damage on those Minotaurs. The Goblins also contributing quite well there. Here we go, being used up to 80 melee attack on regular Goblins between Here we go and Bonewood Staff, and then I guess a little extra something there, I think, from Bob. Yeah, with his Brass Cleaver. Just super juicing up those Goblins. They just absolutely smash those Ungor Spearmen. I mean, granted, their weapon strength's still not great. They're making very consistent contact, though. Gonna see a nice Penumbral Pendulum. Probably would have been better to reverse that and put it down like the whole line here, potentially, in terms of positioning. But positioning of these Centaurs is very nice. They are getting some great throwing axes on this high-value target here. Swamp Things still have only lost one unit model, though, currently. It looks like a couple more are very close to going down. But if they can get away with those unit models intact and regenerate them, they still will have quite a bit of stopping power, potentially a lot of healing cap space left there, and a quick tactical terror route of some hounds sends them running to the hills. Bob holding up this blob. Unfortunately, the Trolls still have relatively low leadership. I mean, they're quite strong in terms of the damage output. The Stone Trolls have already output 1100 damage, but you do need to make sure that they don't get chased. Here, the Beastman player is ultimately probably making a mistake in not detaching some of these Centaurs or Hounds or other fast units to try and chase these Stone Trolls off. They're reasonably close to the edge of the map here, so like these Hounds, if they were to chase, could probably get the Stone Trolls off of the side of the map, and that would negate a huge amount of the Greenskins' ability to actually regenerate, but they do not, and instead the Stone Trolls are going to come back from route and potentially come in, contribute quite nicely into the later stages of this battle. Savage Orcs, though, of course, just great damage output in general. Very nice and thematic to see them fighting literally side by side with Wurzag. And these dual weapon gore herds will trade okay. I mean, they definitely are going to output some pretty good damage, but the Savage Orcs will outclass them, even with that Penumbral Pendulum and other stuff going on there. Yeah, Malagor Dark Omen just trundling about in the sky here. He's like flying in tight little circles. I don't know exactly how he's accomplishing that, but it's quite impressive. All the same, Savage Orc Airboys, low defense, but good attack. You can see once that Frenzy pops back on, they've got 34 melee attack, 39 weapon damage, so even as the Centaurs charge in here, they are going to take some damage back in melee as long as, well, no, just kidding. They're going to pull up and throw axes, which is actually probably the right call here. But some goblins moving in to chase there. Swamp Things also coming back from route now. And again, the Beastmen's not allocating their resources to chase routing units is definitely going to be a big issue with these trolls specifically. They're going to come in here and be able to regenerate, get a really nice rear charge to tear route a bunch of these units off. Those big, ugly river trolls, they literally smell so bad, I think, is the lore, that they tear out units, which, you know, makes a lot of sense. The Blackhorns Ravagers still have good enough leadership, though. They're going to hold for some time more, allow these Minotaurs to come in here. Honestly, Malagor could be cycle charging a little bit, kind of into the flanks of these formations, as long as he doesn't overdive and tries to only attack units on the edges here. Not like dive in versus the characters in the center. He could potentially get a little bit of extra damage, maybe route the Swamp Things again, but instead just letting his ground troops do the work. Gore herds charge in there. Lots of Centaurs left as well, and of course, remember that Centaurs have perfect vigor while their leadership is high. Drunk and Bravado also, specifically for the ROR, does give them some healing. You can see their HP is basically completely full. So the point, though, is that with that perfect vigor, these guys are going to be very strong in the late game. All these Greenskins units are exhausted, tired, or, you know, generally they didn't do their cardio, let's say. Or maybe they did do too much cardio in this particular battle. They are quite winded and tired and exhausted and so forth. So those Centaurs will just trade much better as a result. We'll see. It's anyone's call in this late game. Greenskins slightly ahead on the balance of power right now, but see how it pans out. The armor, especially on like these stone trolls, is going to be completely gone from, well, not completely gone, but heavily debuffed from that loss of vigor. And Centaurs can also utilize the last of their ammunition. Let's fast forward a little bit through this late game kind of skirmish kite phase. As the Centaurs do use up the last of their ammunition, Frog Hooves, we're going to get into combat with their poison, with perfect vigor and their healing, and should be able to trade fairly well here. They actually route stone trolls, they route these goblins. It's pretty much only the Greenskins characters still holding in this main pocket. Swamp Things come back from route, but, you know, had been struggling. Big Foot of Gork comes in, though, on that late game blob formed up around these characters. Going to do a lot of HP damage. I don't know if it'll necessarily finish off a lot of unit models there, but certainly did a lot of HP damage. FG to get also on Malagor, so he can't come try and finish off Wurzag. Bob also going to be crazy critical at this point. His heavy armor, although it is debuffed from the vigor loss, it still will be quite good, and just high stats overall. Great defense means that these non-AP sort of low-ish attack Centaurs and other units won't really be able to make that great of hits on him, even if they are, you know, making reasonably consistent contact. Of course, Wurzag also has a physical resistance, which will come into play a little bit over a long game like this, but let's see. Do we have one more? Maybe here we go, or get back here, rather. Buffing up the leadership from Bob, actually. Making sure those trolls stay in the fight. Swamp Things doing very nice on leadership, despite everything. That ROR status, leadership buffs, definitely do help. Makes a huge difference in just allowing these trolls to be a little bit more functional. I still do think that had the Beastmen played their cards right, both of these troll units could have been off the field, but instead, stone trolls are actually coming back from route as we speak. And of course, the Swamp Things, you can see the terror kicking in for the Grog Hooves, other Beastmen units. Even as the Swamp Things themselves shatter, they're just, you know, they did enough to tactically pay for themselves, even if damage output-wise, it wasn't that great. If we look here, 102 kills, only 539 on damage value, whereas the Stone Trolls, on the other hand, are kind of the opposite. Got some really nice damage value, definitely paid for themselves in terms of DPS, but obviously don't carry the terror, which is why I do think you need both here. But it's up to Wurzag and Bob at the end of the day. The trolls have done quite a bit of heavy lifting, tactically and damage value-wise, quite decent. But ultimately, it comes down to characters versus characters, and thankfully, Bob is a brick house and, you know, just an absolute train. Does get the stone trolls also for the classic combination here, and that's going to be too much for the Beastmen to overcome. The hounds don't want to stay and fight, although, you know, they do provide some leadership damage. Malagor actually manages to get some damage on Bob, but can't escape from the stone trolls, and that's going to be the end for him. There you go. Great job to Cool Umbrella. Big thanks for sending that one in. It was a fun one for sure. Nice to see the trolls put to good use. And like I said, I've been seeing quite a few replays recently of Norska and Warriors of Chaos as well, featuring trolls. So definitely want to give it a shot myself and kind of see how it goes. But this golden rank with the leadership buffs, you know, Bob providing that immune to psychology, the constant stream of buffs also from Warzag to juice up their melee attack. Generally, trolls have very good weapon strength for the cost. You know, similar to Minotaurs, who also got buff in the last patch. Trolls, I mean, they scale well with buffs, so it's nice to see them performing so well in this particular battle. The rest of the army for the Greenskins, I mean, the Orc Air Boys were a decent shot, but the rest of the army does kind of struggle a bit. Some of the goblins pay for themselves. Squig herds do all right, considering their cost. That's pretty much what you would want to see out of them, but a lot of the other units do struggle, and even with the high kill totals, Savage Orc Biggins, you know, clearing out a lot of chaff is nice, but they don't quite pay for themselves. On the Beastman side, Minotaur is also a little bit of a letdown, but the Centaurs with throwing axes are quite good. I almost think here, I mean, I get what you're going for with the dual weapon Minotaurs, considering Greenskins have reasonably strong infantry, but I don't know that that's necessarily the best option. I think here especially you need some kind of terror. I'd probably take the Regiment of Renowned Minotaurs that have terror and regeneration that, you know, can sort of go wherever Bob is not and try and get terror routes on some of those other Greenskins units. A lot of this stuff has immune to psychology, at least, you know, like the Squigs and then anything that Bob is nearby. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed watching this one, if you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.